I'm your host, Stoby, here with the other Kev. He's going to give us his thoughts on 2001. I'm gonna slightly jump in myself with some thoughts, but mainly just going to let Kev talk.
Alrighty then. Made as the book has been released. Didn't see because it's not. Oh God. They both came up with the idea together. Arthur Clarke and Kubrick. And so they both decided to have their own stab at it. They can't.
Isn't in the book Hal wins, doesn't he? And he like talks to God at the end or something.
No, basically like that.
So basically, it's just always weird.
It's always weird. Hal dies till the second book when they bring him back.
Yeah, doesn't he become like super like omnipotent and talk to like space god or something?
Well, just aliens.
Don't know what happens.
Just aliens. But you never actually meet the aliens. It's like in Inception, you never meet not Inception.
Interstellar,
you never meet the aliens. But in Interstellar, the aliens are us just thousands of years more advanced.
Well, at the end of that, he does see himself age and then he becomes like a space fetus.
Space child is the term they have in the book. Are you recording all this?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Space.
I haven't decided what the audio is going to sound like yet though, because it has the fucking muffler on it, but I'm also holding it at a weird angle.
So yeah, they both worked on it at the same point. After a while, they went their separate ways, but generally it's the same plot in the book and the movie. But you have a lot more. See, at the beginning of it, you see the first ever weapon, the Bowen. Okay, first ever weapon, and then you go to the greatest weapon, that satellite, what can destroy cities with a blast. They don't really explain that very well in the movie.
No.
The first weapon to the ultimate weapon, and the space
I
child.
just thought it was just a space station. It was just like supposed to show the progression of innovation.
Yeah, that also works. That works too. But in the book, the space child destroys that weapon at the end of the movie. At the end of the book.
He destroys the first weapon, or
the ultimate weapon.
Okay, so why didn't he do it in the movie?
Well, maybe he does do it in the movie. They just don't make it that clear. Ba-bam. Like the last hour of that movie is silence, basically.
I think from just a movie making standpoint, because that's how I tackle everything.
Making a sandwich. How do they do this in the movie?
Yeah, but fucking how their use of sound in it is my favorite part of it. Like, coupled with the way Kubrick made the visuals, like pretty much you can take a still from every second of that movie and you can get a poster out of it. Just everything is so picturesque.
It's deadly when Floyd is talking to the Russians. There's one Russian, one of the girls, who actually puts her hand like a gun and points at him. They show the hostility between the two countries.
Symbolism. Kubrick's favourite fucking catchphrase.
Floyd is back in the second. The other two books, Odyssey 2010 and 63, about Floyd and David. And the last one is about one of the lads who gets frozen and thrown into space. You don't get to know him till the fourth book, but the last two books were never made into movies.
No, the last two books, yeah. 2010 was made into a movie that no one knew about.
I like 2010.
I haven't seen it.
What
do you go and watch after this?
You should. It is a fun, exciting movie, which has my favourite actor.
Dick Cheney?
No. What?
Ronald Reagan?
No. The guy who plays Will Ferrell's dad, who I can never remember his name.
John Lithgow?
Yeah, he's in it. So the idea, and then shortly after that, man walked on the moon a year later in 1969, and a prank the lads wanted to do was go, my God, there's a giant monolith up here, because Arthur Clarke was in mission control, because he was a huge science nerd, and
that's why he made like the scariest sci-fi of all time.
Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Not just that, but he was someone who wanted everyone to know and understand about science fiction. He is the best. It's one of my best things he ever said was, fantasy are things you want to happen but never can, and science fiction are things that could happen you definitely don't want to happen. What this Kubrick does great is because there's no sound in space.
Yeah,
everyone
I
falls.
think his use of everyone falls into the big booms and the explosions, but like Kubrick kind of utilized claustrophobic sound, which is the sound that you would hear in your head because there's no sound. Yeah,
breathing is such an annoying sound, and he uses it perfectly. Because if you're gonna make a science fiction movie, there's loads of tropes, loads of them fall into it, but that was the first big one, and everyone says it's a masterclass, but no one watches it and pay attention. Go, there's no sound in space because there's no oxygen in space.
There's nothing for the sound to travel on.
Yeah, there's no and things like the actors acting like it's really heavy to move because there's no
weight.
There's no weight, so that was kind of great. The acting isn't the best with David Bowman. He isn't the best actor in the world.
Well, to be fair, it's the 1960s. The acting isn't the best in general.
But his
because they have to there's like a mixed class of people in the 60s and 70s where they were just like either overact or don't act at all.
Tom Baker. I'm just throwing that out there. He just
Alright.
played himself. But he came back with 2010, which was done like 20 years later.
Well, that's good.
That was Kubrick's daughter in the movie.
Where?
The
little girl?
Yeah, that's Kubrick's daughter.
Well, I suppose you're going to get a little girl and you have a little girl.
Yep.
He's your daughter.
He went on to do such great movies.
Kubrick?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah, but he never... Like, back then, he wasn't known as, oh, that's Stanley Kubrick, an amazing director. He was blacklisted. He was like, oh, you're never going to win an Oscar, even though every movie you've made is still watched.
Yeah.
50 years later, it's the 50th anniversary. Christopher Nolan, who obviously, if you watch his movies, loves Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke.
Absolutely.
Because
Interstellar.
It's just a love letter to that movie.
Well, if you also think of Inception, it also... There's like scenes in that and mimic scenes from 2001 if you think of Joseph Gordon-Levitt's fucking Zero Grav scene.
He takes a lot of tropes from Kubrick, and he's the one who got that back in to the higher res, the 70mm.
Yeah.
He's the one who pushed through it, and he's the one who did it.
My only criticism of 2001 is this is the same criticism I had when I seen it the first time.
What the fuck's it about?
No, because it's a 1960s movie. There's another movie with I can never think of this man's name. He's Warren Beatty.
Uh-huh.
He has a film where he's like a spy, and it gets super mindfucky towards the end, and it's all like it does that that bit in 2001 where it's just going all technicolor and shit, just for the crack. That's what happens in this movie with Warren Beatty, whose name escapes me, but it's a fucking weird movie. I did it for a film class one year. Can't remember the name of it at all. But my only criticism of 2001 is that constantly watching it, I remember movies that I've seen that not so much that are better, but are more recent. And I think that's only a criticism because I didn't see this first, I saw them first.
Yeah.
So the movies that draw inspiration from this movie, which are just as good in my opinion, for instance, Moon obviously draws a lot from
It's a fucking
the
brilliant
space
movie.
station. Yeah, the space station
Such
scene
a good
draws
movie, but
perfectly from
the
it.
robot isn't a monster in that one.
Yeah, but because of 2001 and the tropes it uses from it,
everyone
thinks that
it's like Mother and Aliens.
Exactly. So it's just like it just reminds me of so many good movies that I've seen, and it can be jarring because you're like, in that movie it was a bit faster because Kubrick's kind of style for this movie was painting ballet opera. That's what he was doing. That's why it's really slow paced and it's nice and gentle, and it's just easing you into it because firstly space is slow anyway. Like everything is moving really fast, but it's really slow because it's space. Nothing is moving around it, so you can't gauge how fast everything is going.
Yeah. Differences in the book is the monkeys, or the ones that are less hairy. Moonchild is one of the names. Moonchild. He's the one. They live in these holes in the ground, or holes in the mountains, like rocks and cliffs, right? And each night a jaguar or that tiger comes and basically kills one of them.
That's why they were shitting a brick in the fucking...
Yeah, that's why they were so terrified.
Because one of them is about to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they wake up and they see the thing, and they like touch and it vibrates, and they touch and they see things, and it kind of sparks the next stage of evolution.
Yeah.
And that's where he got the first weapon, and he was able to take his water hole back from the opposing tribe. The monolith in the movie that he goes into, you see, they don't really show him going into the monolith in this movie, but in the book he goes into the monolith, and it's on one of the satellites of Jupiter. Now I can't remember if in the book it's Saturn or Jupiter. I know they mixed and matched some of the elements. I think it was Jupiter in that, and I think in the book it's Saturn, and it was Europa. There's a big huge monolith, and he goes into the monolith. He gets off the ship and goes into it, because it's been a month since he turned off HAL, or a few months, and he's just dying. There's nothing left. The crew's all dead. There's barely any oxygen. There's no food. There's no the air control is dying. It's turning off. So he like has to get out of the ship, or he's just going to die anyway.
Yeah.
So he goes up and he touches the giant monolith and goes into it. And what they take out of this one, what they add into the next one, is his first line, and the last line he says in the book is, "My God, it's full of stars," which isn't in 2001, but it's in 2010. They added it because it was the last thing
In the book.
In the book, and then you see loads of stuff, and you go, "What the fuck's going on?" Because it's a trippy ass book, and it's a trippy ass movie.
It's trippy as balls, but I think there's so many. It was like pulling on from what I said earlier about it referencing other movies that I've seen because they were pulling from it. It's the same with Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
The original anime pulls immensely from Blade Runner.
Oh yes.
Which, naturally enough, because Blade Runner created the film noir sci-fi genre. So there's anime like Ghost in the Shell, and then you have is it Cowboy Bebop?
Oh yeah, people.
They pull very much from the same thing. But the problem is that as media moves along, and masterpieces, so-called, like 2001, like it's a masterpiece, but unfortunately other films have tributed to it, and they're more fast-paced, and they engage with the current zeitgeist, the current medium.
I think that's the one thing that a lot of movies that aren't so memorable is taking your time. Like Christopher Nolan knows how to take his time in a movie.
Yeah, very much so. I did Dunkirk. I felt like I was actually there for the whole week.
You leave that man alone. He has good work.
He does good work, and I'll perfectly admit that he knows how to make a good movie. It's the same with 2001. It's definitely fucking handcrafted with love and care, but I don't think a modern audience can connect with it as much as, say, cinephiles or people that appreciate that kind of movie. Same with Dunkirk. Some people connected with it emotionally, because of the swell of the music and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I completely disconnected from the emotion of the movie because I cared so little about all of the characters. Like, because they were just kind of thrown at you. You didn't really get time, in my opinion. Like, he took a lot of time, but he didn't take enough time for you to give a shit about anyone.
Are you talking about Dunkirk?
I'm still talking about Dunkirk, yeah. And 2001, I think, falls into the opposite, where it kind of throws a character at you and you're like, "Oh hey, what's up? Are you the main character? How are you doing?"
You're the third character in the last hour. Could be third character. A monkey, Floyd, and David Bowman.
And you're like, "Are you the main character? Are we following you?" And then
But it's a perfectly 3-act story.
It is. Which is very rare for movies nowadays.
Well, it's 50 years old. It's not nowadays.
Yeah, but that's kind of the thing where you're like, those movies can't do that. You know, most modern movies now, they have the main character and you follow the main character and that's it. That's who you're with. There's no kind of layers. There's no universe built in one movie. Whereas, because someone was talking about Solo. I'm not going to spoil Solo, but I'm going to talk about it for a second. So, someone was complaining about it, saying that every movie now, every single fucking movie has to set up the next movie, or a movie to come or a movie that's coming.
Yeah, that movie set up 2 movies.
Yeah.
Solo did.
Like, but Solo is a standalone story, and they could have left it like that, but they didn't. They had to like, oh, here's some. You have to go see the other one. You have to go see this
Yeah,
next
but with
one.
this one, with the one cameo in Solo, they must have been going, this movie isn't going to go well. We need some kind of twist or turn that people go,
But
yes,
it's not even
yes,
a fucking
yes.
twist. If you've watched Clone Wars, if you watch Rebels, you're like, hang on, Crimson Tide sounds familiar. I know who that is. I know who's in charge.
But that's only great for people who are diehard Star Wars. Like, I never watched
Okay,
that because
but-
I didn't like that animated style.
Yeah, but at the same time, if you have someone that isn't, that just watches the movies, that just solely, the only interaction they have with Star Wars is the once a year it comes out into the fucking
Or
cinema.
fucking every 6 months.
Yeah, every fucking 2 minutes nowadays. But that's their only exposure. It's the same with the Marvel movies and the Marvel TV shows. If you don't watch the Marvel TV shows, you're fine. It doesn't. You're fine. It doesn't interrupt you in any way. It doesn't disconnect you from the movies. You can watch the shows, and it'll enhance you. But that's it. You won't get changed in any way. With the Star Wars thing, everything that's canon, quote unquote, you have to just know it. You can't.
That's the place we're talking about. This ice cream place.
Geno's.
Geno's, yeah.
Sponsor. Yeah, with the Star Wars, you have to know what's canon, what's like for the people that are OG Star Wars fans that are like, they know everything. But then
Yeah, but
Disney
then-
bought everything and was like, all right, everything you just knew, just
Yeah.
don't remember it.
That's what I was gonna say, because that killed. I loved the Star Wars books. Some of them were really world builders, and then they're like, hey,
It's not real.
you know why there's like 400 books in the series?
Forget about it.
Yeah, there's only 6 movies now. But don't worry, we're gonna milk that.
Sorry, what was your favorite Star Wars?
We're gonna have to go that way anyway.
Yeah, I know. That's not real. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
We're not going to go into this whole of
The Dark
cinematic
Jedi
universe.
and then Siths, and the Siths was wrong thing, and then there's Jar.
Forget about it.
Yeah. That one you had to use lightsabers at one point. You use a bit of the Dark Force to use them. Yeah, that's gone.
Yeah, forget about it. Forget it.
Yeah, even though that's a really cool concept.
Yeah. There's a lot of shit where it was like, this is really cool. Yeah, it's not canon though.
Yeah. Shame. Though this
Very
means
much.
a lot of people did actually die.
In Star Wars.
Yeah. Boba Fett is then dead. Mace Windu is properly dead and didn't come back. Like, everyone who dies in the movies, there's a spin-off book, comic book, or game. Just
Where they
know
weren't dead.
They didn't die. It's the most safest world in the world. It's safer than the 18. It's that safe. Don't worry. Nobody died.
Anyway, back to modern day masterpieces. What was I can't even remember what point I was making.
You're talking about how every movie has to build up to another movie.
Whereas this movie, you just you can watch it. I know I've never watched the sequel. I've never read any of the books that link to it. But you can just sit down and you just watch that and that's it. Do you know what I mean?
The rest of them, I wouldn't call. They are sequels, and they do follow the same characters. We don't really need to watch 2001 to watch 2010.
No, you don't. 100%. I haven't even watched 2010, and I know that could be attributed to a fact. Like, you know?
Because they tell you what happened. They go into a bit more. 2061 is about Europa and how it's there. You can't go on Europa. The only people out for Europa is the Europeans.
Europeans?
Yeah. It may have
Europeans?
They may have their own kind of continuous storyline, but you don't really need to know them. Same with 3001, A Final Odyssey, the 4th in the series. Again, you don't need to know the other 3. You just don't.
Like, you could go in blind, you just pick it up, you could go in blind, and you'd still be fine.
Yeah.
I don't
Because
know.
that's what Kubrick did. He never made a second film.
No, he never did. And he never would have. Because I think Kubrick was very much of the mindset. It was like, I've told the story is told.
It's perfect.
It's done.
Well, it's done, not perfect.
Yeah.
I really hope my bike is still here.
Me too.
I hate walking here because I can never remember where I locked my bike.
Sorry, I know where it is.
Because it's usually like, yeah, it's one of them, but there's a big huge rack of bikes here. There's a lot. So, If that was the first time, well, like,
This is the second time I've ever seen that movie.
second,
Second time.
I've seen it dozens of times. First time in a screen, in a cinema.
Yeah. Oh, I'd imagine it's 50 years old. I'd imagine it would take a very long time to corral anyone into a screen to fucking watch that movie. But
It's like, it won't be like, bring a day. Like, first day, let's go and see
2001: A Space Odyssey.
a near 3-hour movie. Pretty good though.
I know we don't know each other well, but let's watch this really deep fucking movie that you are not going to get first time. I need to. This is something I've.
There's my bike.
This is something I need to get off my chest. That the prosthetic effects in it aged super well. Like, they actually look like chimpanzees.
Oh yeah, that is it is great. I was really worried that seeing it in a higher res, seeing it in a bigger picture, you'd see like the zips and all that shy. No.
See, I think. Whereas with CGI,
After a few years, it looks crap.
yeah, it ages immediately. Like almost a week later in some CGIs, and you're like, that's not real.
See, that's why I say Jar Jar Binks is one of my favourite CGI characters, because he still looks fresh.
Well, that's because with Jar Jar Binks, the way they CGI'd him was he had like the head.
Yeah, like he was they took the time in getting someone to wear a costume and then CGI over it.
Yeah.
Which sounds really lazy, and it sounds like you've too much money on your time. But he was a very important character till the fans hated him, and George was like, yeah, let's draft that idea.
I know the way he was supposed to be the Dark Lord. Nah, forget about that. Fuck Jar Jar Binks. But I think like that just attributes to all-time filmmakers.
You getting a bus?
Yeah.
Alright, grand, sweet.
I think
Don't
so.
walk towards your bus then.
No, I'll just get a taxi. Last bus was I just.
Alright.
But I get a taxi from wherever you leave off. You're gonna go down.
Straight.
Yeah.
All the way straight.
Anyway, well, I can finish my final thought anyway.
Yeah. My bike was still there, it was safe. Many hours.
But yeah, I think that's the difference of like a filmmaker. Oh God, hold on. Like a filmmaker in 1960, 1970, they knew their limitations, but they knew how to frame it so that it would look believable.
Yeah, some of them, the colour effects near the end are so fresh looking.
Yeah.
Like,
even in the 70mm, the increased 70mm.
Like, even though it's just filter changes and trying new filters, I bet you the
Essentially,
studios
it's just inversing the colours and shit.
Yeah, the studio just sent him a box of filters and he went, can I get a helicopter and go over some canyons? And they're like, yeah.
Whatever. Whereas nowadays, they try and computer everything. It's like, I just put, all right, so we're just gonna film this blank hallway for a couple of hours, and you just throw a monster in there or something.
I'll do a little bit of ooh and ah.
It's like whereas horrors, I think, are still at the last kind of masterpiece filmmakers. I know they usually make shit movies, but they tend to know what they're making. They have an idea of, all right, well, this is the extent of what we can do. How do we make it scary? Because if you're watching a horror movie and you can see, well, that's not real, immediately you stop being scared. You're like, haha, this is hilarious.
And
Whereas
the space and the kind of effects of the weightlessness that he does in this movie is great.
Yeah.
Because it isn't like, I can definitely see the strings. It's more like, how do you do this bit?
Yeah, it was like the bit where
The pen?
Not the pen. The bit when they're going down to, I think it's to the pods, and the end of the corridor is spinning, but the corridor is stationary.
Like there's
the way they melded that together is just absolutely phenomenal.
There's bits like that in the movie that if I watch a movie, I'm like, it's probably how you do this. But he just did these kind of really easy effects, really well looking.
Yeah.
Like I can't really think if a really noteworthy director at the moment who has big ideas like Kubrick, because he didn't just stay to one genre.
No, he did. He played around with everything, because he did thriller with Shining, thriller/horror with The Shining, and then he did. I'm trying to think of all the Kubrick movies I've seen now.
There's Clockwork Orange,
which is thriller/
psychological fucking mind.
Yeah, just mind fuck in general. I think
Full Metal Jacket.
which is an anti-war fucking slash action movie. I'm gonna say slash action movie because some shit happens towards you.
Doctor Strangelove, or How to Not Worry and Love the Bomb, which
Never
is
seen
straight
that
up
one,
comedy.
but it's pretty fucking weird. Yeah.
I haven't seen Eyes Wide Shut,
No, I haven't either.
which I think is a great title. Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah.
I've seen most of his movies because I just really love his work, and I wonder at what point did he just become, you know what, he does great movies.
I think it was before The Shining, anyway. Well before that.
And yet, King does not like The Shining.
That's because it wasn't the way he thought. To be fair to King, though, he made the movie the way he wanted it to be made. Like, he remade it himself, and nobody liked it.
Yeah, but
But to be fair to him, everyone had seen the Kubrick one and went,
which is a masterpiece.
yeah, and they were like, no, it's not that. Like,
And he's like,
see, the
"Yeah,
problem with King in that situation is that he didn't leave license for the director to do what he wanted to do, which is what Kubrick does. He is an author director. He's a director that makes his own stories, makes his own work. And for King to be like, no, I wanted it to be like the book. No, tough shit. Like, you shouldn't have gotten Kubrick to direct it then if you wanted it to be like the book. If you wanted someone to just take your book and translate it, it's the wrong fucking person.
You're 40 years early for HBO, because they would have done a great job.
Yeah. What do you want it to look like? Gotcha, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Whereas Kubrick could take it and go, right, I like what you're doing, I like what you're thinking. I got a better idea.
I like the first 6 lines, the third line in the second act, and 1 line near the end. And I'm just gonna have fun with the rest of it.
Yeah, I'll
Is
see
that
you.
alright?
I'll see you.
How many Oscars have you won? None.
Alright then, shut up.
Then listen to me, a multi-billion-dollar author. Do what I want. I think that's a good end piece.
I think so too. So I'm gonna stop it and then I'm gonna